Just 7 minutes ago, Park Jimin sent shockwaves across the global music scene, leaving millions of fans stunned after an unexpected and powerful moment during his feature with Rolling Stone. What was meant to be a routine appearance quickly transformed into something far more intense, something that no one had predicted. And within moments, the internet erupted with reactions, questions, and theories that continue to grow by the second. From the very instant the moment surfaced, fans around the world began sharing clips and discussing every detail. There was something different about Jimin's presence this time, something deeper embedded in his expression and the way he carried himself. It wasn't loud or overly dramatic, yet it was impossible to ignore. His energy alone seemed to command attention, pulling viewers in and leaving them searching for meaning behind what they had just witnessed. As the footage spread rapidly, the phrase "Jimin Rolling Stone" climbed to the top of global trends. Millions of fans flooded social media platforms, each offering their own interpretation. Some described the moment as bold and daring, others called it emotional and deeply personal. There were even those who believed that this was not just a simple appearance, but a carefully crafted message meant to signal something much bigger. What made the situation even more intriguing was the subtlety of it all. Jimin did not need grand gestures or shocking visuals to create impact. A shift in tone, a lingering pause, a look that lasted just a second longer than expected, these were enough to ignite worldwide discussion. It is this quiet intensity that has always set him apart, the ability to communicate volumes without saying too much at all. Observers began to notice small details that only added to the mystery. His words, though few, carried a weight that felt intentional. Every sentence seemed layered, as if it held more meaning beneath the surface. Fans quickly began analyzing transcripts, replaying clips, and slowing down videos in an attempt to uncover hidden messages. Was he hinting at a new project? Was this a reflection of his personal journey? Or was it something even more unexpected? For many, this moment felt different from anything they had seen before. Jimin has always been known for his emotional depth and artistry, but this time there was an added sense of anticipation, a feeling that something significant was about to unfold. The atmosphere surrounding his appearance carried a tension that was both exciting and mysterious, keeping audiences on edge. Industry voices soon joined the conversation, with critics and commentators praising his ability to captivate on such a massive scale. They pointed out that very few artists possess the power to create global impact through subtle expression alone. Yet Jimin managed to do exactly that, once again proving why he remains one of the most compelling figures in modern music. As more behind-the-scenes content began to emerge, the intrigue only deepened. In quieter moments, Jimin appeared thoughtful and focused, as though he was fully aware of the weight his presence carried. His demeanor suggested intention rather than coincidence, leading many to believe that this moment was carefully planned, even if its meaning remains unclear. Fans continued to build theories, connecting this event to possible future releases, artistic changes, or even personal revelations. The uncertainty only fueled excitement, drawing more people into the conversation. With every passing minute, the mystery grew larger, and the anticipation became almost impossible to contain. Despite the countless interpretations, one thing remained certain. This was not just another appearance. It was a moment that captured attention on a global scale, a moment that sparked curiosity and emotion simultaneously. It reminded everyone watching that Jimin's influence goes far beyond music, reaching into the realm of storytelling, connection, and shared experience. As the world waits for clarity, the question lingers in the minds of millions. What did Jimin truly mean with this moment, and what comes next? Whether it leads to a major announcement or simply stands as a powerful standalone event, its impact is undeniable. For now, fans remain glued to their screens, replaying every second, searching for answers that may not come immediately. Because if there is one thing this moment has proven, it is that when Jimin chooses to speak, whether through words, expressions, or silence, the entire world listens, and the story is far from over. The intensity of the moment did not fade. In fact, It only grew stronger as time passed. What began as a sudden wave of shock slowly transformed into a global conversation that refused to quiet down. Across different time zones, fans who had just woken up were only beginning to discover what had happened, adding fresh reactions and new interpretations to an already overwhelming surge of attention surrounding Park Jimin and his unexpected presence in Rolling Stone. Clips continued to circulate, but now they were being examined with even greater intensity. Every frame was paused, zoomed in, and dissected. The smallest details, his breathing, the direction of his gaze, even the timing between his words, became subjects of deep analysis. It was no longer just about what he did, but why he did it, and what it could possibly signify in the larger context of his career. What stood out most to many observers was the emotional undertone that lingered throughout the moment. There was a quiet vulnerability that contrasted with his usual polished and controlled public image. It wasn't weakness, it was something far more powerful. It felt real, and that authenticity struck a chord with millions who have followed his journey over the years. As discussions intensified, longtime followers began revisiting past interviews, performances, and lyrics, searching for patterns or clues that might connect to what had just happened. Some pointed out similarities in themes: growth, identity, pressure, and transformation, suggesting that this moment might be part of a larger narrative Jimin has been building over time. Meanwhile, newer fans found themselves drawn in by the mystery. Even those who were not deeply familiar with his work began paying attention, intrigued by the sheer scale of the reaction. It was no longer just a fan-driven moment. It had become a cultural event, crossing boundaries and reaching audiences far beyond the usual scope. In various online communities, discussions evolved into debates. Some believed this was a deliberate artistic move, a calculated way to spark curiosity ahead of a major reveal. Others argued that the power of the moment lay in its spontaneity, that it was genuine and unplanned, which is precisely why it resonated so strongly. The truth, however, remained just out of reach, adding to the ongoing fascination. Industry insiders began to offer their perspectives, noting that moments like these are rare and often signal a turning point. They spoke about the importance of timing, presence, and emotional connection, elements that Jimin seemed to have mastered effortlessly. According to them, this could very well mark the beginning of a new chapter, one that might redefine expectations not only for him, but for the industry as a whole. As hours passed, the momentum showed no signs of slowing. Instead, it evolved. Fan edits, reaction videos, and analytical breakdowns flooded platforms, each adding another layer to the unfolding narrative. The moment was no longer static, it was alive, constantly being reshaped by the collective engagement of millions. And yet, amid all the noise, one detail continued to stand out: the sense that this was only the beginning. There was an unspoken understanding among fans that something more was coming. Whether it would be revealed in hours, days, or even weeks remained uncertain, but the anticipation was undeniable. The silence from Jimin himself only amplified the effect. No immediate explanation, no clarification, just the lingering echo of that moment. For some, this silence was part of the message, an invitation to reflect rather than react. For others, it was a source of suspense, heightening the emotional stakes of what was already an unforgettable event. As night fell in some parts of the world and dawn broke in others, the conversation continued uninterrupted. The global nature of his influence ensured that there was never a moment when the discussion truly stopped. It moved like a wave, passing from one region to another, constantly renewing itself. In the end, what made this moment so powerful was not just the action itself, but the reaction it inspired. It brought people together, sparked curiosity, and reminded everyone of the unique connection between Jimin and his audience. A connection built not just on music, but on emotion, storytelling, and shared experience. And still, the biggest question remains unanswered. What was the true meaning behind it all? Until that answer comes, the world will keep watching, keep wondering, and keep waiting. Because when Park Jimin creates a moment like this, it doesn't simply pass. It lingers, it grows, and it becomes something far greater than anyone could have imagined. As the hours stretched on, the moment refused to lose its grip on the world. Instead, it deepened, transforming from a shocking highlight into something far more layered and meaningful. The presence of Park Jimin in that brief yet unforgettable feature with Rolling Stone began to feel less like an isolated event and more like a carefully placed piece in a much larger puzzle. Conversations that once focused on surface reactions now shifted toward interpretation. Fans were no longer just asking what happened, they were asking what it meant. And with every passing moment, the theories became more intricate, more emotional, and more personal. For many, this was no longer just about entertainment. It was about understanding the artist behind the image. There was a growing sense that Jimin had crossed into a new phase of expression. His past work had always carried emotional weight, but this moment seemed to signal a deeper level of introspection. Some fans described it as a quiet turning point, the kind that doesn't announce itself loudly but leaves a lasting impact that cannot be ignored. The atmosphere surrounding the moment began to take on a cinematic quality. It was as if the world had collectively paused, holding its breath, waiting for the next scene to unfold. Every new clip, every unseen angle, every subtle detail added to the narrative, making it richer and more complex. What once lasted only seconds now felt stretched across time, replayed endlessly through the eyes of millions. In the midst of this, a particular detail continued to resurface in discussions: his composure. There was something striking about how controlled yet expressive he appeared. It wasn't just confidence, it was intention. The way he held himself suggested awareness, as though he knew exactly what kind of impact this moment would have, even if he chose not to reveal its full meaning. For some, this realization brought a new level of admiration. It highlighted not just his talent, but his understanding of connection, how to communicate with an audience without over-explaining, how to create a shared experience that feels both personal and universal at the same time. At the same time, emotions among fans grew stronger. Many expressed how deeply the moment affected them, not because of something obvious or dramatic, but because of what it made them feel. There was a sense of closeness, as if they had witnessed something genuine and unfiltered, something that went beyond performance and entered the realm of truth. The ripple effect continued to expand outward. Media outlets began picking up the story, each offering their own interpretation, each attempting to capture the essence of what had just happened. Headlines varied in tone, some emphasized the shock, others the mystery, but all pointed to the same conclusion. This was a moment that mattered, and yet, despite the growing coverage and endless speculation, clarity remained just out of reach. There was no definitive explanation, no clear resolution. Instead, there was only the lingering presence of the moment itself, echoing across platforms, conversations, and minds. As time moved forward, one thing became increasingly evident. This was not something that would fade quickly. It had already embedded itself into the collective memory of fans and observers alike. It had become a reference point, something that would be revisited, reanalyzed, and remembered long after the initial shock had passed. The anticipation for what comes next continued to build, almost becoming a story of its own. Every update, no matter how small, was met with immediate attention. Every silence was interpreted, every gesture reconsidered. It was a cycle that fed itself, growing stronger with each passing hour. And through it all, Park Jimin remained at the center, not just as a performer, but as a storyteller whose narrative was still unfolding in real time. Whether intentional or not, he had created a moment that transcended expectation, one that blurred the line between art and reality. Now, the world stands in a state of quiet anticipation. Not restless, but deeply engaged. Waiting, not just for answers, but for continuation. Because if this moment has proven anything, it is that some stories are not meant to be understood all at once. They are meant to unfold slowly, leaving traces, emotions, and questions along the way. And somewhere within that unfolding story, the next chapter is already beginning, unseen, unheard, but inevitably on its way.